Hello everybody, welcome to CS131B. This is going to be our first lesson, so let's get started. So in this lesson, we're gonna write our first Python program and then we're gonna analyze that program. So let's start. So first, let's ask why we need a program. The reason is simple. Computer doesn't understand English. So that's the reason. So what it understand is basically zeros and ones. So in other words, in the computer brains, the CPU's vocabulary, there's only two characters, 0 and 1. So we need a translator, okay? Because programming with 0 as 1, 0 and 1 is tedious task. So we need a translator so that we can translate the code, the instructions we write in English into zeros and ones. And Python is one very powerful translator. All right, let's write our first Python program. So here is the one that every Python class writes, the hello world program. It's simply going to print the phrase hello world to the screen. Okay, so let's get going. I'm going to first use my PyCharm. So I'll show you how to create a project in PyCharm and also add a Python file to that project. But before that, you have to make sure that you have set up PyCharm properly. And if you don't, if you have other IDE, you are feel free to use any other IDE as well. If you have a Chromebook, then you can stick to your online IDE like Ripple. All right, so let's get started. Okay, so I'm going to add a new project first. New project. And I'm going to give it a name. So let's say lesson 1. And create project. I'm going to leave the project in the same window. And now that I created the project, I'm going to add a new Python file. So new Python file. I'm going to give it a name, hello1. Okay, I have now empty Python file. Now what I want to do is I want to print hello world to the output. So print hello world. Okay. So I'm going to also put these comments as well. My first program, and it prints hello world to the output. I'm gonna increase the size of it a little bit. I can go from this side as well. I'm trying to give as much, do both presentation and the coding together. So that's helpful to understand or to the screen. All right. So let's run this program. I can right click over here and run hello one. So it printed hello world. Okay, so we ran our first program. Okay, now I recommend when you follow these lessons, you can also get ready to code, like opening this kind of your IDE as well. I highly recommend that. That means I highly recommend to follow me alone when we do the lesson. All right, so let's now, this is a simple program, and let's write this in the interpreter, Python interpreter in the command line too. So I'm going to go back to terminal. I'm going to first close this. So I am in my Linux terminal now. And if you have a MacBook, you will be in MacBook terminal. If you have Windows, you will be in the Windows command line. So I'm going to write Python 3 and I'm going to hit enter. So I got the Python 3.7 interpreter. I have two interpreters installed, so I'm going to go back and now I'm going to enter Python 3.9. So I am in now Python 3.9 interpreter. All right. So now we needed to print hello world. Print that's it. Hit enter and it will print hello world to the output. Okay. So let's continue. So now I have this program, and let's compare how this kind of program compare with other languages. I'm going to pick two other famous languages. One is going to be Java, the other one is going to be C++. And note that all three languages, C++, Java, Python, has just single one mother, which is the C language. So all three languages are actually first written in C. In fact, Python is right now a coding standard. So there are other languages also implement Python's standard, but the mainstream Python we use is actually C Python, the Python written in C. Okay. So this is Java. So, and this is C++. Now you can imagine to do this simple task in Java and C++, you are having to write a lot of lines of code, right? So that's one of the reasons that Python is really popular. You will write less code to accomplish more, which is an advantage these days. And also you will notice that the syntax and right. So to better understand the differences in syntax, I'm going to write this program again in with little bit with some little changes. So let's see that. Okay. So what I did was I wrote a function, and inside that function I printed hello world. So basically I did this to sort of comply with the other two mainstream languages. Notice both of them has main function, and C++ also has main function. Well, in Python, we don't need a main function, but to comply with the standard, and you will see that there are a lot of other benefits to this format as well. We're going to learn them later. So I also wrote that main function, and inside that main function, I am printing hello world. So let's go back to PyCharm and then change our code coding. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to change this code like this. So I'm going to write, so def main, okay, and I'm going to bring this line of code inside. That's all, nothing fancy. Okay, and down below I'm going to call this function with this way, and I'll explain this later. So right now we can use this. It's simply going to call the main function. Okay, right. So basically I have written the main function, and here I'm calling that main function. Rest of the stuff we did already. Okay, so going forward we're gonna stick to this standard of writing solution to solving problems in Python. Okay, all right, so let's run this again. It's the same thing we're gonna get. Okay, all right, so let's go back again to the comparison. Now we can see the differences are even more stark. For example, in Java, and there's this curly brackets for to indicate the start and end of the program. And in Python, we don't have that curly brackets. To indicate a statement, this is a line of code belong to a group of code, we use indentation in Python, or 4 spaces. One indentation, which is 1 tab or 4 spaces. So that's how Python knows print this line of code is belong to this main function. And this colon indicates main function start here. And the lines of code below, all the lines of code below with 1 tab indentation belongs to main function. Okay. So that allows some cleaner looks than this messy structure. So that's one other reason Python is getting really popular, and already popular actually. All right. So our next steps, we're gonna analyze this code. So let's do that. All right. So for that, I actually written the same code with another function. So let me just open that program. I have already written that. Okay. So I'm gonna go over here, open recent, and I'm going to open this way. Right. All right. Let's be right here. Okay. So this is the program. All right. So all what I did was I wrote a function, separate function that does the same thing, similar to main. So the reason that I do this is basically, again, to make things clear, and to, in case if I want to reuse the code. And I'll explain this, how we write Python function later. But for now, I am immersing you guys in this format so that we're gonna get into a good habit of writing nicely structured code at the onset of the start, so that you're gonna get into that good habit. All right. So I'm doing the same thing in this function. So let's go analyze this code. Okay. So I'm going to go back to my slides. Okay. First one, comments. Code comments start with hash mark. So there are a bunch of code comments in this program, starting from the beginning and in here and there. And every time when you code, it is a good habit to document what you do in important steps. Not all the lines of code, in important steps, explain what you are doing there. So that makes your program expressive and easy to read to a new person. Okay. All right. Code comments, Python don't run them. It's purely for documentation purpose. Function definition start with def keyword. DEF is def keyword. It's a keyword also called reserved word. Okay. So function definition start with def keyword. We call this the docstring. Basically, it explains what this function does. It's right here. Basically, it explains what this function does. Okay. So make it a good habit to write this docstring every time you write Python functions. And there are specific modules created to catch this phrase and create documentation in Python as well. Okay. So these docstrings are purely documentation purpose. Okay. All right. So continuing on. Print hello world. Print is a built-in function in Python, and it prints hello world to the screen. So whatever we pass to the print function, Python tries to print it to the screen. Okay. So print command, print built-in function, print the thing that we pass into that. So passing means something like this. Okay. So in this case, we passed hello world to print so that it print to the screen. Okay. So moving on. Def main, basically it's the main program definition. That is the main program definition, like the way we had with Java and C++. Okay. If it's another keyword and we use it in selection, we're going to learn it later. For now, we're going to stick to this format and use it. And I'll explain what is the benefit of using this format, and also we're going to understand what's going in there also in very shortly in a different lesson. Okay. All right. So that's the end of this lesson. I hope to meet you all in another lesson shortly. Hello everybody. In this lesson, we learn about values. Basically, we learn about Python data. Values, types, identity of objects in Python. You also learn about variables and their naming, and you're going to practice this concept as well. So let's start. We're going to start by discussing about values. So the values are basically the entities that program manipulates. Okay, it could be a number, it could be a string, it could be something else. So those are the values we deal with day-to-day life, and it's the same